Draft physics video. Yeah, it's been a little while. So some comments, and we'll see where they go. Lots of different subjects, sort of, kind of. So anyway, yeah. Well, just show how I read the comments. I usually read them, all the comments page. So, um, and they're threaded, but not perfectly. And people's comments, some do and some don't show up, and it's all really kind of crappy, the system YouTube has. And so some comments that are responses to other people, they have the name in them, and then some don't. And it's, it's the way the comments are presented. There's not much you can do. Much I can do besides assume some of them are directed at me. They might be responses to somebody else, but there's no indication of that. So anyway, this Robin Evans, cunt mostly. Pero, I have noticed he does assume that all comments are addressed to him. Well, except the ones that have, like, the superior mind one, superior mind, ... So I guess that's something you can fix or not fix in terms of commenting to the person you're responding to with their name, maybe. But whatever. Fuck. When they are addressed at other people on the thread. Well, again, if the thread isn't shown to me, then I can't really see the thread, right? Piro's comments don't even show up. If I open a private window, his comments don't show. I don't know why, but they don't. And I read on some other video where they don't for somebody else too. So you explain that. Often this seems obvious, but I don't think he realizes he's doing it. Fuck you. This is just petty snarkyisms. It's just such bullshit, especially under the circumstance in which this Piro response happened, where the person deleted the video, the comment he was responding to. How the fuck was I supposed to know Piro was talking to somebody else when their comment didn't exist anymore? Really, fuck you. These people are just such assholes. Alright, so anyway, we'll just do some other regular comments here. Well, other comments that are also probably worthy of a fuck you. Alright, so some guy asks, Fubu head, so the Big Bang occurred. I don't know, did it? This was on a Ken Wheeler video, by the way. Yeah, I don't know. They have constructed a theory. Whether it's right or not, I don't think it is. I guess generally speaking, I'd say the evidence of an explosion, it doesn't really follow the pattern of a normal explosion, especially when they get into their, to make their math work out, they have the super expansion milliseconds, where the universe expands 10 zillion times in 14 seconds. Kind of crap. And, so the background radiation will come up in the next comment, but it's just, there's little pieces of evidence, and they stitch them together, and they pretend like they've made something really, really solid when, no, you could stitch it together lots of ways. This is little bits of the dots, and they're deciding to draw the dots into a Big Bang, but you could also just draw the dots into the universe is just full of junk forever and ever. You could. So, anyway, I don't know if there's really hard evidence of the universe having any different character in the past to the present. So I guess when they, maybe there's some arguments could be made about neutron stars or something, and they're only a certain number of billion years old, like no new ones are being created or something. I don't know. I don't even think that's true. So I just don't know if there's any artifacts where they could say, look, this is something that only exists 13 billion years ago, and you can't find one anywhere else but 13 billion years ago. Something like that. Some vision where you say, yeah, there's a dinosaur. and you know the dinosaurs don't exist anymore. Something like that. But I'm not an expert in the field, but I'm an expert enough to know that their theory on background radiation, for example, is that the universe was a smaller thing 13 billion years ago and a hotter thing. And that it created a bunch of radiation as it was expanding, and that's why it redshifted into the microwave. But the problem with that theory is if it was hot, that means the stuff was going in all kinds of directions. Hot means pressure. And that means that some of the junk that was emitting the radiation would have been moving towards us. Even if the thing was expanding, if it was hot, stuff had to be going towards us. And so where's the evidence of the blue shifted elements in the background radiation? Anyway. So if some guy says new physics, so he's got a channel, and this was kind of a whatever. If you have time to watch the introduction video I have uploaded yesterday, you'll see there's some short examples of my view of physics. Now, there's no examples of anything. The whole new theory is based on mathematical formulas programmed in software, which I show in Max 8 presentations. I don't know what Max 8 is, and I couldn't give a shit, but yes, it is all presentation, and it is all nothing. Music and graphics and nothing. No substance. Yeah, and just some sort of promise, like, oh, big theory coming. I don't really need the big theory coming video. Thank you. Spare me the commercial. Alright, so the Wilhelm. Yeah, okay. So this will get into the two slit stuff. And this comment I read a couple of times and I still don't get it. Alright, the width of the slit actually is in the math. There's two slits in the double slit, so it should say, at least say, the width of the slits is actually in the math. No, it isn't. You would agree, no, I probably won't, that the length of the wave, I'm not worried about a wave, is in the math, right? So yes, the wavelength of the light is in the math. Yes, but what does that wavelength of the light have to do with how wide I make the slits? I mean, that's one of these misnomers, is they often talk as if, if I make a slit small enough, fat light couldn't get through it. Like somehow I could filter out red light by making a really thin slit, and then only blue light could get through. None of that happens. But that's what they talk like happens. But anyway, thing is, let's see, the math, right? Of course. Thing is, the slit width can be written as a scalar multiple. Who cares? The point is the formula is kind of simple. You can't make the sine theta without making your two photons, so you can have your unparalleled lines. And so I just don't understand. Where's there a scalar in two slit math? Anyway, read more of that basic algebra you can't figure out. No, I mean, this is just obnoxious. The two slit videos, there's millions of them. Why don't you just show me the video where they do the math as you think correctly, where the width of the slits is in the math? Go ahead and show me that. It's not on Khan Academy, it's not any university site, it's not in any of the videos I've seen. So why don't you direct me to the video that demonstrates it done correctly, asshole? Fuck, what an obnoxious fucking cunt. Alright, thing is, the slit width can be written as a scalar multiple of the wavelength. I'm just saying the slit width has absolutely nothing to do with the wavelength. I can make the slits wider and smaller. The single slit, I've shown videos of somebody making the slit wider and smaller. Has no effect on the wavelength of the light. It's not relevant to the wavelength of the light. This is just bullshit. Anyway, so the slit width is intrinsically in the formula. So somehow he thinks there's some sort of connection. That somehow when I do the double slit experiment and I make the slits narrower, that somehow I'm changing the wavelength of the light. That doesn't happen. So you're wrong again, he says. Well, let's see. So the slit width is intrinsically in the formula. No, it isn't. The point is the formula does not describe the actual pattern, as I've pointed out. The pattern goes like this. Okay, that's what it does. It goes big, small, big, and the little lines all fill in. All it does is the line part. All it does is the interference pattern, just like the single slit. The math just gives you bars. It doesn't do this. So the math isn't even, and it doesn't represent the actual experimental results in any real way at all. It has absolutely nothing to do with, essentially, the character of the double slit experiment. And again, I've only directly pointed to it. You can see people do the math. I've shown the Yale professor saying, hey, look, we just changed the A component here. In the single slit, A meant how wide is the slit, and in the double slit, A means how wide is the barrier, the separator between the slits. And we just consider the two slits point sources. Irrelevant to the math. I mean, I played the professor saying it, and you're going to be this obnoxious. Why don't you make an argument that I can present to him, the professor, telling him he's wrong, he's an idiot, he's a fucktard, you're wrong again. So you're wrong again. Why don't you type that on his video, the Yale professor's video, and then give me a link to it so I can see your comment on that page, pointing out that you know better than the Yale professor what their theory is. The formula do contain the width of the slit. So the formulas, now there's formulas, and they do contain the width of the slit, contrary to what you say. No, contrary to the video I played of the Yale professor saying it, saying aggressively, answering a question from the audience and saying aggressively, no, we don't use the width of the slit. The A variable has been changed to the width of the impediment. He says it. And the slits are considered single point sources. Single point sources mean it doesn't matter what size I make them. Fuck. I mean, I can't believe you. You say you're a NASA scientist working at Lawrence Livermore Laboratories, and you can get the argument this fucked up? I mean, I show a professor saying it, and you're going to sit there and give me grief? You cunt. Alright, so you're wrong again. No, I'm absolutely right again, and I'm having to deal with fucking trolls, which you are. I'm right about you being a troll. The formulas do contain the width of the slit. No, the double slit formula does not contain the width of the slit. So, contrary to what I say, he says. There's a word for that. What is it? Oh yeah, lying. So, he calls me a liar because I play the Yale professor aggressively and emphatically stating the width of the slit isn't in the formula. He says it's not in the formula. It's not in the math. He says that. And this fucker says this. Alright. And it has the width between the slits in the formula too. It's not in the formula. The formula doesn't describe the actual pattern. The formula is just a gross approximation of doing the distance between the dark bands, and it doesn't give a shit about what actually happens when you go two bands away from the center. It doesn't go to the little dead spots and the little dead spots and the little dead spots. It just ignores them entirely. Okay. It has the width between the slits in the formula too. Well, I just stated that. and it has the width between the slits in the formula too. The width of the barrier, you should have said. No, that's the only thing it has in the formula, dumbass. Again, I could just play the Yale professor saying over and over again, single point sources. That's what the slits are converted into. They just create two photons separated by the distance of the impediment, and that's what they make their interference pattern out of. They just assume 2-point sources at a distance defined by the impediment. That creates their two waves, and that creates their math. And that's how simplistic it is. And that's how unrepresentative of the actual pattern created it is. And I haven't lied about any of that. I've played the videos. I've requested that you cite me to some reference that demonstrates anything I've stated is wrong, and you don't do that. You just make these fucking obnoxious statements, these declarations from your authority as a pretender, as a guy who steals other people's images, who rides in other people's butt cracks. So you're a liar and a hypocrite for calling me a liar. No, you're the person, who's claiming a truth you don't back up with evidence, and making accusations you don't back up with evidence. And I'm really sick of it. You fucking piece of shit. Alright, so, Gus Fling. You don't seem to be very educated on background radiation or the evidence for the Big Bang. Well, I'm saying the evidence for the Big Bang is circumstantial and, yes, unfortunately, inconsistent and weak. Just like the evidence for dark matter, for example. For one thing, cosmic background radiation is not a random frequency, says you. So there's a claim by you. So go ahead and show me how there's only one kind of cosmic background radiation, that it's only in the microwave and nothing else. Go ahead, show me that. I don't have I couldn't find one. Actually did a little bit of research, and it's hard to find any description of the spectrum across the entire electromagnetic spectrum of exactly how much noise there is coming from the universe in each one of those bandwidths. It is very narrowly focused in the microwave range. Can you prove that or cite something that demonstrates that it's very narrowly focused, that it doesn't leak into other kinds of radio waves? I don't think you can. That they found it looking for radio waves, by the way, not specifically microwaves. Pretty sure. I mean high band radio. Let's see. Narrowly focused in the microwave range, and its distribution is indicative of a hot expanding gas predicted by Big Bang molecules. Well, again, now how would the gas be hot if it isn't multi-directional? That is, how exactly can you have a hot gas if you don't have a pressurized gas, which means the molecules are bumping into each other or they're shooting radiation at each other in all directions. So I'm just saying it doesn't really go with the idea of something expanding being hot. Things that expand get cold. Okay, that's how it works. You want to make something cold, you put an expanding gas into it, and it gets cold as fuck. So, even that doesn't make logical sense in their theory, in the sense at the same time something is 3,000 degrees Kelvin, it's also expanding and maintaining that heat. I don't think so. But whatever. So again, just, these declarations that we have all this evidence, we have this theory, it's perfect, it can't be assailed, you can't make an argument for the evidence indicating anything else. We have these 3 dots, we've placed 7,000 other dots around them and drawn a picture, and you either like that picture or you're somebody we're going to ridicule. And I'm going to argue that now I can take those 3 dots and I could add 5 dots and make a different kind of picture that'll work with those 3 dots. So I don't think you've got it nailed. Alright, I don't know if I want to... Superior Mind, like I said, I like them, but I just, sometimes his comments, I just don't know. So anyway, just adding to a point you made. I noticed too that if you consider that the thing we call a photon is the packet capable of producing a detectable interaction at some frequency rate, it could even be the case that the smallest packet, photon, capable of interacting to produce an interaction, hypothetically, could consist of more than 2 bits, maybe even 100. Yeah, well, you could argue that like a cosmic rays or something, okay, if this is what you're saying, have so tight a frequency that you know, anything above X-rays, let's even say, you know, you're already at 10 nanometers. I mean, 50 times smaller than ultraviolet light. That you wouldn't have any real way to. It gets very difficult to perceive the impact on, say, electrons or something else in terms of the exact number. But I guess I would argue that the ton part is still the ton part. And so once you're able to detect tonness, it wouldn't really matter what frequency it comes in because you'll get a certain amount of heat, so to speak, energy out of it, regardless. Anyway. Producing an interaction could consist of more than 2 bits, maybe even 100. Although that might have been what you were alluding to when you said it probably something more simple. Yeah, I don't know if that's what I was alluding to. And I suppose for the sake of simplicity, even if it is so, we can still use the simpler version. But it may be handy to have a consideration like that in the back of one's mind in case it comes in handy later. Yeah, I just don't I don't think there's any variability to the elemental part. So the quanton notion, the idea of some indivisible standard bit, and it's just how many of the bits. And so frequency can make it confusing to detect when you're talking about a very high frequency. But again, as I would state, the energy is just in the bit itself. So all you're really doing is once you can count a bit, you just count the bits. Alright, so then somebody commented on the stack exchange, you know, where I placed an introduction comment. They ask you to introduce yourself, and I introduced myself honestly, and it was deleted in 2 hours because part of my honest description of myself was I'm interested in having a conversation about some of these assumptions of physics, and you're not allowed to do that. So this idiot, I mean, you know, I'm going to call you an idiot because what's the point? You didn't watch the video I made, obviously. So you comment without even watching the fucking video, you fucking troll. These kinds of questions get deleted. It wasn't a question. I mean, there was no question. It was an introduction comment where I made statements about what I am about. You just handpicked a bad question. I posted an introduction. I didn't handpick a bad question and generalized it to the whole Q&A site. No, I just pointed out that all I did was post an introduction comment and they deleted it because I'm not allowed to tell the truth. about who I am. You're not allowed to participate if you don't think everything spoken by their pope is the truth. If you're going to argue their pope might be wrong, they don't want to hear it. Poor statistical skills. That's just amazing that some asshole, I'm going to delete your comment, by the way. There it goes. Yatsy or something. Fuck you. Talk about statistical skills when you didn't even watch the fucking video. Just amazing. Doing such poor science in critiquing something where you don't even watch the video you're critiquing, and then you cite some sort of rational or logical errors made by somebody when you do that. Fuck. It's just so skanky. I don't know, there's a Ken comment, I don't know if there's any point. The human being Ken Wheeler, otherwise known as Theora Apoplopoulos, deliberately abuses Occam's razor in order to accrue financial profit to himself. Well, I don't know. I don't think he's accruing all that much profit off his YouTube channel. All that much. $1,000 a month maybe. He obviously has a huge pile of money somewhere. And he got it probably from the story is, he just, which a lot of kind of gayish people do this kind of racket. They find some old lady with money and, they be their helpmate or something, and inherit a big pile of money. And it seems to me that's one of his backstories here. So anyway, creepy and such. But everybody's got to survive and all that kind of crap. But yeah, what can you say? The guy obviously, he plays this role like, oh, I live this meager life and I have and then he just, every month, $2,000 at least on camera toys, at least, maybe more. Who can afford to do that? On a YouTube channel. No, I don't think so. Anyway, so yeah, he hasn't made too many. Well, no, it doesn't matter. Even when he makes a science video, there's no science in it, and he has a bunch of astrology essentially for his metaphysics, I guess he calls it. I don't know. It's just voodoo. But yeah, you can't make anything out of it. All this upside down counter space bullshit. A silly way of talking about things that are, calling the things that are counter space. And hyperboloids and all that, it doesn't go anywhere. Alright, so I don't know if I want to tackle any other particular subjects in this video. It's just the technicalities and going through with them all. I've made, I think, the 4 now introduction videos, and I'm thinking of doing another video trying to just tie it all together. But I have to pick and choose where I do the detail part. It's and it's just burdensome to have to do, in my opinion, I've already presented enough reason for there to be development in this area of material physics versus whatever you want to call it. Piro at least is conceding that his fields are nothing different than the old ether theories brought back to life. That light's traveling through an ether, a medium, so he's conceding that kind of thing. I think there is good evidence that we don't need no ethers. We don't need none of these infrastructures that are more complicated than the visible universe. They're the mechanisms they think are underneath the system that exists are far more complex in terms of what their structure must be than the actual physical universe. Because you look at the physical universe, it's not that complicated. Heavy things swirl around, catch fire. I mean, there's not that many moving parts, so to speak, to the physical universe that can be detected and seen. And the only part that's a little funky is the compound chemistry part. But if you go from the big universe to chemical molecules, then to atoms and to subnuclear parts, all of those things seem to be able to function in a very simple way. Simple mechanics and no complex infrastructure. Anyway, no, it's like they want to make this into a monorail or something, some kind of, it's just no reason to do that. It's bowling ball, So, so that's enough. Till next time, and I don't know exactly where I'm going, but what subject will be next. But I mean, I have to do the writing thing. I just hate writing, but I have to do it. So I'll attempt to devote the necessary time to that function. Irritating.